So basically, what synthetic biology, it's different. It has all of the essence of the RFID. It has a receiver, a transmitter. It monitors what's going on in your body. It monitors your environment, your blood pressure. How are you responding to stress? Did you eat that bagel and the doctor told you not to eat the
Uh,
bagel? And then all that information is disseminated to your health insurance, your life insurance.
like a
And
social credit score, basically.
Yes, definitely, definitely. But it's even more, and it interfaces with our phones and with the quantum computer. It's a huge surveillance system.
Okay, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, I am so excited. I am honored to have my guest here today. Many of you might recognize Celeste Solum. A few years ago, during the the jab time, we say the jab here. I don't know what you say. I don't know if we still have to say that anymore, but we still call it the jab. But during COVID, uh, you you had a lengthy and a very viral video where you discussed many different topics, but we're not getting into that today. I came across your program on Sunday, I believe, and you were speaking about the United Nations. But before we get into that, I just want you guys to know that Celeste Solum is a passionate researcher. She's an author. She is a broadcaster dedicated to uncovering and sharing what she believes to be, and what I believe to be, and what many others believe to be hidden truths about global events, the deep state, emerging technologies, which I want to get into with her much soon, but later, and biblical prophecies. And she challenges mainstream narratives through her books, webinars, and media appearances. I will leave a much more lengthier uh, bio of her in the description section. But without further ado, Celeste, welcome to the Last Dispensation Program.
It's nice to be here. It's a real honor. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to kind of let you take over here. What what was I seeing that hooked me on Sunday about the United Nations? And what's so ominous that we need to be aware of?
So at about well, let's back up. I mean, in a play, you need to set the stage before the actors come on. So let's go back to the April 8th, and that was the day of the solar eclipse. Little did any of us know that the United Nations was taking a vote of all of its delegates to take over the world. None of us knew. We were all busy looking at the solar eclipse. And, that was splashed all over the media to get our attention away from global events. And it was not announced, it quietly took place. Fast forward, and in about July, I became aware of certain events that, as former government, my ears perked up. I started digging, and then I started doing webinars for my followers on what was going to be taking place. Sorry,
No, you're okay.
allergy time, both in the United States and around the world. So it started with the Lair of the Dragon, about chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and E is the wild card, explosives, economy, environment, electronics, and anything that starts with an E, which can be mixed and matched with the rest of it. There were some maneuvers taking place in the United States by the Dragon Brigade, and that has been operating in the United States and around the world since the Civil War. And they also had a change of commandants. That really was so. Then I did two webinars on the color of evil, talking about the technology. I've been covering it for a lot of years. And I said, pay attention to the color.
Before I forget, brothers and sisters, if you are enjoying the content, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ding the bell for notifications. Your support means the world to me and helps the channel grow. And hey, if you want to contribute to the program, I do prefer Venmo first, then Cash App, then PayPal, then Zelle. And I've got cool products. I got cool merch. That's all being designed. I get a percentage of it. And that's if you're interested. Remember, your comments are what keep this community thriving. So drop your thoughts below. And if you're feeling extra generous, consider becoming a YouTube member or sending a thanks, a super thanks right there. The button's right below the screen during our videos. Now back to the topic.
And I did one article at shepherdsheart.life, and it's called Hodor, HODOR, A Good Time to Die, DYE, as in dying like color. But it's a dual purpose word. And they were doing there was an Indian reservation or town that they were doing some colorful chemical and biological warfare experiments very close to where that new bioweapon facility is in Manhattan, Kansas. So that was the second part. And then the third part came up because I became aware that the United Nations was going to be doing take over the planet because they felt that the humanity has sinned against the planetary boundaries. And so on Sunday morning at 7:45, I mean, I tuned in thinking that they would do this declaration at the end of the day, but they introduced, it was an introduction to the Summit for the Future. They brought a singer on that you really should listen to that. And I need to listen again because she said some key phrases about what their agenda is. And then they went straight to it. They said, okay, they gave the delegates about 30 seconds or a minute to declare, because they had already voted in on April 8th. Now, what you have to understand is why did they do it particularly on Sunday is because it is the fall equinox. And in occultism, whether it's the Egyptians, the Freemasons, whatever, they believe that the fall equinox is the gate to the gods. In fact, they so believe that all this technology that they're inserting into people with the nanotechnology has a golden gate in it to get us in an idolatrous state. But we can excise it through our faith and through prayer and fasting. So don't be despairing of it. And that's much cheaper and much safer than all these other promises that other people will offer you. So they took the first one, and like I said, it was like 30 seconds, and they said, delegates, stop. They took the count, and then they went to the other line items. And basically, they passed all the line items in less than 5 minutes and basically taking over the whole world. And I mean, it is sweeping powers. If you think the Patriot Act was an intrusion into your life after 9/11, it pales in comparison. It is like a cakewalk compared to these new sweeping UN powers. I mean, it covers everything from identity to basically they believe they're gods now because they went through during this golden gate to become gods, and that they have the right to do that and usurp the inalienable rights that mankind has been bestowed by God. But they now believe that they are gods and they can make the rules now.
You know, it's interesting that you brought up the performer. Was this a pop singer that was singing, or with the music performer?
Yeah, there's a singer. I wasn't familiar
Well,
with
no,
her.
you
She's
mentioned her because you said that she let us in on. They
yeah.
always have to let you in on it, right? Don't they kind of give you uh, a glimpse of what's going on, um, so that they can say that they warned you, right?
But why do they do that? They
That's
do
what I'm
that
asking you.
because in the Bible, God always tells his people and his prophets, his servants, what he is going to do. And this is all a counterfeit system. This is a satanic, synthetic, digital twin of God's system where they are breaking all of creation down to its original molecules and atoms, and then rebuilding it, engineering it into something devoid of God altogether in the image of Satan.
Yeah.
And so
And they don't
it's
all necessarily worship the same way either. I mean, it doesn't, like you said, whether it's secularism or the worship of Baal or Moloch, they can all have differing ideas. But does the United Nations have an actual religion or a theology?
so they're pretty atheistic, but it's amazing how they counterfeit the Bible. So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but 2 days before 9/11, an artist up in Vermont with some children made a counterfeit Ark of the Covenant. And in it, they put and the children painted the outside, and they put the Earth Charter in it, which is the human rights for mankind, what it takes to be a good global citizen. They put death masks in it, and they put some other like real occultic type things in it. And then 2 days before 9/11, they marched it around the UN General Assembly, and then it went into residence for a time in the UN meditation room, which would in Christianity would be a prayer room.
Right.
And then they took it on tour, much like that Arch of Baal that they did, take it on tour. And then it came back to the United Nations for a long time. Well, as this was coming up, as I was doing my homework, especially during the Color of Evil, I wanted to see, I haven't heard, where is that ark of, it's called the Ark of Hope. And I went to go look, and it has been replaced. It's disappeared. And now there is a big, it's not an obelisk because it's not standing vertical,
Right.
but it's this big black stone that's a rectangle, pure black, in the meditation room.
Oh, man.
And so you have to wonder.
Yeah.
You just have to wonder.
Well, in the meditation room, it's still there. And that goes back to
Yeah.
Alice Bailey.
Yes.
And a
yes.
lot of people, if you trace it back, Alice Bailey was, her mentors were Aleister Crowley and Madame Blavatsky, which goes back to, I mean, we could go on and on and on, but I'm on the same page with you, Celeste. And when I brought up that singer, I don't know if you remembered, you brought that up.
Yes. Yes.
And now you remember what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
But I've heard plenty of times where when I say they, I'm speaking of those who knowingly or unknowingly comprehend that they are participating in the adversary's plan, and his plan is to bring us into captivity.
Yes.
And that's what the United Nations are all about. How much time do you have?
I have to 1:00.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think this is going to be a shorter program than that. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Because I want you to come back, so I don't want to wear you out.
Oh, you
want you
won't
to
wear
come
me
back.
out. I've got 3 interviews today.
Okay.
I'm the little broadcaster bunny here.
Okay, good. Well, okay, so let me, you mentioned something about how are they going to do this? You probably got into it a little bit, but digitally, um, they want to put something in our bodies. Do they want to use? Uh, we're definitely past uh, cards. We don't need to do that. Anyway, go ahead.
So we're past RFID too.
Yeah.
Remember the little grain of rice, the RFIDs that they put
Yes.
in dogs and stuff? We're
Yes.
way past that.
Right.
So about a number of years ago, they started to flood the world with synthetic biology. And I kept waiting for the doctors or scientists, somebody to speak up on synthetic biology. It was the huge elephant in the room. There was GMO, genetically modified organisms, and then synthetic biology came in onto the into the world. And I kept waiting. I really didn't want to tackle it because I knew it was like, talk about deer in the headlights. People just look at you like they thought COVID was bad. Synthetic biology, I knew was going to be a bear. And I waited and nobody did. So I said, all right, Lord, I'll take the bull by the horns. And it took me a while to get the webinars together, but I did. And so basically what synthetic biology, it's different. It has all of the essence of the RFID. It has a receiver, a transmitter. It monitors what's going on in your body. It monitors your environment, your blood pressure. How are you responding to stress? Did you eat that bagel and the doctor told you not to eat the bagel? And then all that information is disseminated to your health insurance, your life insurance.
Like a
And
social credit score, basically.
yes, definitely. But it's even more, and it interfaces with our phones and with the quantum computer. It's a huge surveillance system. So let's go back a little bit. So this whole synthetic biology and genetic modification was made at the first Asilomar conference. Asilomar is over near Monterey, California, just south of San Francisco. And in 1975, there were policymakers and movers and shakers that guide this planet. And they made the decision to genetically modify all life on Earth. You were talking every human, every animal, every plant, every microbe, everything that has life. And then fast forward, so basically that was laid in 1975. So then fast forward to Halloween 2005, there was a mandate that was from the United Nations to the federal government to each state. And it was called the National Animal Identification System. And yes, they do consider us animals. And it has three pillars. One, that all property belongs to the government, and that includes your body. Two, the electronic identification of all life on Earth. And each life form has a country code at the beginning of it, an asset code, and then an alphanumeric number afterwards that is unique to that particular life. And then the third is 24/7 surveillance. So a bunch of us mobilized, cadres mobilized in each state. We were fighting in each of our respective states, both our state and introducing legislation, putting it into the federal government. And unfortunately, as they say at work, at this time I was still working for the government. It's kind of interesting. But yet opposing it and then suing the government for FOIA information on what we're seeing now. Anyway, the train had left the station, as they would say at work, and so they had put too much. It was too late in the agenda. It was time that it moved forward, and so it did move forward. The genetic modification moved forward into synthetic biology. And like I said, those first interviews that I did on synthetic biology, and I spent a lot of time trying to break it down for the average person to understand. But even so, the people I was speaking with were very intelligent people, but you could tell it was just like, um,
Deer in headlights again.
yeah, but that's kind of been my calling. I'm a trailbreaker, and that's what happens when you have to break, you are called to break the trail. People look at you, they don't have a frame of reference. So, what do I mean by synthetic biology? Couple things. One, it changes the function of every single thing in your body, the function. So, you yourself have a calling, and each of the cells in your body and your organs have a function. And I think my earpiece doesn't want to stay in. Um, it's losing its function. And now with synthetic biology, I'm just going to let it go. Um,
So if we see something fall right here, it's
yeah,
okay.
if you see it fall,
Well, I
nah,
wanted
don't.
people to know that you worked for FEMA. We never got into that, but
Yep.
people are probably wondering that don't know who you are. But I'll mention that. Go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder there.
Yeah. So do you buy commercial shampoo?
Uh, yeah, I think my wife is a hairdresser, so she buys our shampoo. So I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So in 2008, you can inform her
Okay.
that they put hair bots into the shampoo. Have you ever heard of a hair bot?
I've heard of the bots. Are we talking microscopic little
Nanobots. But
nanobots?
these are particular for the hair, and they change the function of your hair.
Oh my
And
goodness.
what is the new function of the hair? So
I
this is
don't know.
2008. We hadn't even heard about nanobots at that point. And these hair bots are filters to take out what the United Nations believes or declares is pollution. And what is the first thing? Carbon dioxide. So your hair is literally filtering carbon dioxide out of the air. The residue is going into your body. And if you suffer or die or get ill because you've got too much carbon dioxide in your body, that's okay. You're expendable. So that's just one example. The other example I really want to share is I got to get a prop here. So here's my little prop. This is your cell. So what synthetic biology does is it encapsulates your proteins, and there it goes. And it can't, so your protein can not interact with the environment because the UN also put out a mandate. You cannot take anything from nature. You cannot give anything from nature. You cannot take anything from nature. That is why they are against carbon-based life forms. They want silicon humanoids that they don't breathe, they don't drink water, they don't eat, they don't do anything. So they are, when they say carbon neutral or net neutral, this is what they are talking about, is encapsulating every protein in your body so that it can't get nourishment, it can't breathe, it can't drink, it can't eat.
To create a new being, a new form of a human being, to be their servants, to be their slaves, right?
Well, they really don't. They really don't want. It's a massive depopulation.
They don't want humans here, period.
No, they want the whole planet. They want to return to the Holocene era,
where there's only elites, right?
Where it's just a few handful of elites. Yep.
That is interesting. I'm glad you answered that, because I always wondered, well, why do they even want human beings around? I mean, you saw the Georgia Guidestones, and we don't really know where those came from, or maybe you do. We could talk about that another time. But I think they exploded them. Somebody blew them up or something. But I remember they wanted 300 million people on the planet. Is that not a thing anymore, you think? Is the United Nations, do they evolve in their plans?
Oh, yes, they're very evolutionary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's a living document. Everything's a living document.
Okay. So you've got your movers and shakers. Let's just take, well, I don't want to say any names. I might get in trouble, but, well, he's getting ready to die, but like Soros, you know, once he's gone, then the next generation goes, yeah, he had good ideas, but let's do things this way. And then you have different people taking over the UN. The firm conference is coming up. So go Thursday, speaking on the main stage on the first floor from 3:45 to 4:30. So don't miss it. I will also have a booth. Yes, the Firm Foundation featuring the 34th International Book of Mormon Evidence Conference, faithfully exploring relevant LDS topics of our time. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. I hear it's amazing. I've never been to one, but I hear it's simply amazing. And that's October 24th, 25th, and 26th of this year. Venue at the Ranches. That's where it will be at 4118 North Clubhouse Lane, Eagle Mountain, Utah, 84005. I guess that's overlooking a beautiful view of the Saratoga Springs Temple. And there's a golf course there. The Ranches Golf Course, brand spanking new full service event center west of Utah Lake. And it will be amazing. There'll be food, folks, and fun. Nostalgic McDonald's commercial. My question to you, Celeste, is do they believe, unless you were, I'm sorry, you were still talking about nanobots. But
no, it's fine. I'm
okay.
done. It gave people an idea of where we're
right,
at.
Right. Yes, and nanobots are real, folks. Whether you believe what she's saying or not, they are real. That's real engineering there. Do all of these folks, these elites, do they all believe in what they're preaching? Do some of them believe in what they're preaching as far as the environment and
yes, they're eco-terrorists.
Okay.
They are deep eco-terrorists. Absolutely.
But if you think of under Clinton, what was his name? What's his
Al Gore.
Name? Al Gore. I forgot what his name was. Been a long time. Do you think there's people like him that are just egotists and hypocrisy is their last name, but they don't believe necessarily in what they're preaching? Maybe. I don't know if he does. But it's happening. And whether you believe it or not, you're saying they want to do away with human beings, period.
Yes.
But then you think about it, how many elites do they want on the planet? We don't really know.
No, we don't know. We don't run in those circles, thank God.
Right.
So.
Okay, so let's go back to as far as the World Economic Forum. How do they fit into all this?
So they basically developed the Great Reset, and that Great Reset, I mean, it was introduced at the time of COVID, and I exposed it. I
know that.
I went really viral.
You did. And can we talk about, after you explain this, will you segue into that, and then we can end on that today? Your story about your husband and FEMA, if that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can. So the Great Reset, so basically they just did pandemic, and it was a fog of war. It was a very confusing time. There were lots of changes in the United States and around the world, things that we were not used to. And then they laid low, the United Nations laid low, but now it's time, because originally in the military, when I go to military conferences, they said they wanted the original design people depopulated by 2025. So they had to start moving. Mm-hmm. And they finally, I guess, made the decision that they were ready. It had beta tested. They put trillions of dollars or more into artificial intelligence, which would do the surveillance and help them with modeling and that type of thing. So here we are,
So they work with the World Economic Forum. These movers and shakers, these entities, they rub elbows with each other. So you got the United Nations. They're not under an umbrella of the United Nations, though, right?
No, but they just work together. And gotcha. Davos, I mean, Club of Rome, They all have a part. It would just be like if you had a huge company, you got your president, your vice president, your board of directors, you got the gophers that go do things, you got your PR people. Everybody has a job or a function.
Yeah.
And so that's basically the World Economic Forum was to introduce and to begin to, it was um, this is 250 layers deep of every single thing in the world that they wanted to change that of God's creation and
Yeah.
to turn it into this satanic virtual digital twin.
I find it interesting, Celeste, that we are going. Do you believe in the millennium when
Yes.
Christ comes, 1,000 years of peace on earth, and then after that we have another Armageddon or
Yeah.
Gog and Magog? I think we're on the same page with that. And I want to have you on the program more. Oh my gosh, you're amazing. You are an answer to my prayers. But I'll slow down. Slow down, Troy. I want you. It's interesting how Satan is trying to introduce his fake millennium, but he's not going to succeed.
No,
And he
he will
knows
not.
he knows he's not going to succeed, or he's trying in vain. But that's what they're doing. It's always an inverse, right? Everything
Yes.
is inverted from what God does. Um, would you go ahead and uh, talk about your background with FEMA, and why you went viral and a few years ago during COVID, and then we'll end on that, and definitely we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I've been a photojournalist since junior high. I had my first camera at 8, and I was published, so I'd cover the junior high, the high school events, annuals, that kind of stuff. National Geographic did ask me to go on an expedition, but I did have young children, and my obligation was to my family first, and so I had to turn that down. But boy, that was hard because that's a real honor to be even asked. And so wrote, I was very much an activist. I've always been. And
Would you call yourself an old classic liberal or a conservative all the way?
oh, I've been conservative all my days.
Well, I say that because
Um,
I miss the liberals. They used to just argue with you, not the leftists, but the liberals. Go ahead.
yeah, I know what you mean, but I was one of those academic scientific nerds that loved reading government documents and scientific journals and books and stuff like that. So that's what I did. And so anyway, the time I did go into FEMA, I wanted to serve my country, and I was did Y2K, 9/11, Hurricane Katrina, all the tornadoes and different hurricanes and different disaster, earthquake disasters, that type of thing. Have lots of war stories to tell. But then the day came, and I had to disappear because a lot had changed after 9/11, and there was something I couldn't do. And so I disappeared from my whole life with 2 suitcases in a car, and my car was disposed of. So I started this new life. I met my husband, David, and I married. And um, he was killed almost 8 years ago. And there is strong evidence. I do have private detectives and that type of thing, plus things that the Highway Patrol said and different things that happened during that whole event. He was going to work, and the car rolled in a place where there was no cell phone coverage, no line of sight. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to the Highway Patrol. It didn't make sense to me. But in hindsight, in retrospect, I could see the Lord preparing David to go home, go to his heavenly home. We did notice things that were different, but of course, we don't read the future, so we just didn't know until that event happened. So, but God has been so good. I mean, David died with $20 in his wallet. At that point, I was a secret source for some big name people, and I wrote. And then one day they kicked me out of the nest and they said, you really need to go public. And so I did. And so I wrote this really lame space article, and it was like one pager, and it was on the space event Steve. And I put my bio at the end. And I tell you, I think I posted it at like 5 o'clock, and there were like 20,000 hits like in the first hour on it. And I knew it wasn't the article. I knew it was because a secret source had come forward. And then I've always known I had a calling at 5. I became a believer at 5. And I had different touchstones throughout my life that told me, the Lord told me that I would have this calling at this season. And sure enough, here I am. And so that's what I do, is report the news. I try. The Holy Spirit has said, don't even bother reporting the news unless you're going to insert scripture, connect the dots with the word of God, because every problem and every solution is in the word of God. And so I firmly believe that. And I'm one of the few people that does that. There's not that many original content creators. And I research, I labor, like even the webinars that I'm doing now took me, well, like I've been doing it since mid-July, writing nonstop and then broadcasting in segments. So it's taken a massive amount of time, but it's worth it. It's new. Nobody has heard this before. Now it's starting to get out, so other people are picking it up. Yesterday, I saw that somebody's actually taking their phone and videoing my videos and putting it up on their channel. And it's like, I am about the news, but people need to know that these platforms and broadcasting is no longer one person and YouTube. These platforms are expensive, and doing what I do is expensive. The resources, I have to pay for scientific journals. I have to pay for books. Some of them are like $150 for a book. And I have to get a number of them depending on what topic I'm talking about. I have to take certain classes, sign up for subscriptions and things. So it's not free.
Right.
And I am a widow. And I have remained a widow.
I definitely want you to plug every time you come on here, because I'm all about that. Books that you're writing, any links that you want to plug, and I can put them in the descriptions field. How can we help you?
So people can subscribe and help support my work. And then I do a newsletter. I do weekly community meetings where you have access to all my inner things. You can ask me questions. That's at Celestial Report to the number 2.com. I just launched a new website. I'm pretty excited about it. And then articles are a combination of their at celestialreport2.com and also shepherdsheart.life. Although I can't put anything on, I can't do anything with that site because I'm under investigation.
Oh, wow.
So, that's the way it is.
Well, then if I was to put a link up here, and it'll be here now because the people are watching it now, and I do all my editing, and like Joel Skousen, I have him on once a month. Do you go on Alex Jones sometimes?
No, Alex hasn't had me on.
Oh, he needs to have you. What is he, crazy? Yes, he's crazy, but he's true. It's funny because let me just say this. 7 years ago, people didn't believe half everything he said. Now they believe half of what he said because it came to pass. But then they go, yeah, but you're still a conspiracy theorist. So it's like, really, guys? I mean, Celeste, you don't believe in every conspiracy out there. I don't either. I mean, well, I don't know if there's lizard people running around, but that's a whole other program. But I would like to put your whatever website you want here also on the screen. I'll put the other ones that you can email me, and I'll put them in the descriptions fields, folks. So go get her newsletter. She is an amazing human being. But what link would you like here broadcast the whole time?
celestialreport2.com.
Okay. It will be done. Now, before you go, uh, I like to do shorter segments, if that's okay. I like to do 30 to 40. You're probably used to going on for 3 hours with somebody.
Yeah,
Is that okay with you?
absolutely. It's fine.
Okay. Uh, because I do other stuff too. But I want you to keep coming back if that's okay, even to get updated and plug your platform. And we could keep doing that because I'm growing. I'm going to be speaking at the Firm Conference here in Utah in October. And anyway, thank you so much for being on the program for the first time. And the next time you come back, we're going to talk about direct energy weapons. Would that be okay?
That's fine. But I do, before we go, if you have
Yes.
the time,
Yes.
there is a breaking news story that I
Yes.
think
Talk
that
about
you
it.
need to.
Go.
Yes. Okay.
Let's go.
So there is something that the media is picking up right now. It's called the United Nations Directive 001, and it is about taking over the planet and it assigning every country or region a number. And so there's no longer America or Canada or South America or anything like that. So I have been flooded this morning with that information. You listeners out there need to know this is misinformation or disinformation.
Okay.
I do not know if it was put out by the UN for a purpose that I'll mention in a minute, or if it was just a regular person. To me, it looks like a regular person. How do I know this? Because I study the documents all the time. It does not have letterhead. It does not look like official office. It looks like somebody typed it up on their computer.
Okay.
It has errors in it, like spacing errors, typing errors. There's nothing at the bottom. There's no seal. There's
letterhead or whatever. Yeah.
There's no signature.
Okay.
There's no, like at the bottom, sometimes they'll give, the UN and their address and all that. There is none of that. But I didn't just take that. I'm a researcher. So I went to the United Nations site. I looked on the front page. I didn't see anything about it. And I then went to their document page where you can look up any document, United Nations document, except classified ones, of course. And there was nothing there. So in this digital compact that they just passed, there are provisions within that digital compact that will go after people that spread misinformation.
My wife's going to work. Sorry.
Yeah, disinformation.
Okay.
So it is important. You don't want to be caught in a snare or a trap that you were spreading misinformation or disinformation, because we don't know what the penalty for that will be. Okay. Is that imprisonment? Is it death? What is it going to be? It's too early in the game to tell. One other thing I just want to share, because I did work in the emergency operations centers, and at the beginning of any operation, and believe me, this is an operation only at the international UN level, there is always misinformation and disinformation. It is a time of chaos and change. Let's say, 9/11 just happened. Remember back how chaotic that day was. So, of course, with the takeover of the planet, it would be very chaotic. But I just don't want any of you viewers out there to get sucked into something that you really don't know about yet. I know that it's not an official document, but like I said, the jury's out, whether it came from UN or just somebody that wanted attention. But the alt media, it's everywhere, and people are taking it as gospel truth. So I just want your listeners to be safe.
Oh yeah, thank you for that warning. Definitely. Yeah, that's important information. Celeste, thank you so much for being on the program. like I said, folks, go to, well, it's right here. It's, say the website again.
celestialreport2.com.
And then you will email me any and all links that you want in the descriptions field. And then from then on out, I'll just be, whenever you come on, they'll be right there. And this will be right here. And newsletter, folks. How much is your newsletter?
So to subscribe to Celestial Report starts at $25 a month.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. But
and
this
then it's more than a newsletter. You get community meetings and you have access to my private Telegram forum where I just put news in that I think you should know. And I chat with people and all sorts of stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Celeste.
Okay. Well, have a nice day. And thank you so much for asking me on.
No, it's my pleasure. And we're going to talk about direct energy and updates too. I want you to come on and update us.